External Affairs and the Public Service.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas it is provided under Section 41 of the Finance Administration Act, Cap 1501, that a guarantee involving a financial liability is not binding on the government unless the minister grants the guarantee in accordance with the enactment or with the prior approval of Parliament by a resolution of Parliament. And whereas it is further provided under Section 42 of the Finance Administration Act, Cap 1501, that any obligation arising from a guarantee given in accordance with Section 41 of this debt charge and all debt charges for which the government is liable shall be charged on and paid out of the consolidated fund. And whereas the Minister of Finance considers it necessary to guarantee a loan in the amount of US $100 million from the Export-Import Bank of the Republic of China, Taiwan, by the St. Lucia Air and Sea Ports Authority for the purpose of financing the Hewanorra International Airport redevelopment project. And whereas the loan is repayable over a period of 20 years from the date of the first disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 5-year grace period. And whereas the interest payable at the rate of 6 months London Interbank offered rate plus 1.5 per annum. And whereas the loan payments shall commence after the grace period of 5 years has expired. And whereas interest shall be paid in the amount of US $2,195,000 semi-annually during the grace period, and thereafter at the 6-month London Interbank offered rate. And whereas the terms and conditions proposed by the Export-Import Bank of the Republic of China are accepted, be it resolved that the Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to guarantee a loan of the amount of US $100 million from the Export-Import Bank of the Republic of China, Taiwan, by the St. Lucia Air and Sea Ports Authority for the purpose of financing the Hewanorra International Airport redevelopment project. Be it further resolved that the loan is repayable over a period of 20 years from the date of the first disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a 5-year grace period. The interest is payable at a rate of 6-month London Interbank offered rate plus 1.5% per annum. The loan payments shall commence after the grace period of the 5 years has expired. The interest shall be paid in the amount of US $2,195,000 semi-annually during the grace period, and thereafter at the 6-month London Interbank offered rate. The terms and conditions proposed by the Export-Import Bank of Republic of China, Taiwan are accepted. Mr. Speaker, the resolution before Parliament is to seek for an approval of a loan guarantee, a loan that is going to be taken by the Air and Sea Ports Authority in the tune of $100 million US. The objectives of the Hewanorra International Airport redevelopment project are the following. 1, to alleviate the congestion during peak arrival and departure times, which contributes to the discomfort of the passengers and impacts negatively on the passenger experience, and to accommodate anticipated future growth in air passenger traffic. Let me elaborate a little bit on this, Mr. Speaker. Where St. Lucia is geographically located puts a tremendous amount of stress on us in terms of accommodating flights. Most of the flights that are going to get from the United States of America are going to be from hub locations. So whether it be Miami, whether it be Atlanta, Charlotte, all these are connecting flights. So the time of day in which the flights are going to arrive in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, are generally between the hours of 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Even from our European destinations, given the time difference that we have, Mr. Speaker, and with those flights leaving early in the morning, are going to cause those flights to now arrive in St. Lucia during that same window. We have seen an exception to the rule in the success that we've had in negotiating with American Airlines to be able to have a second flight out of Miami and that flight now is going to depart, if I'm not mistaken, at 7:30 in the evening, will overnight in St. Lucia and depart at 8:30 in the morning. It's a very important flight, Mr. Speaker, because since the demise of American Eagle, what we have seen is that if you miss your flight in America in the morning, there's no way of getting to St. Lucia the same day. And that's a significant point because our honeymoon market, when a honeymooner loses one day of their honeymoon or arrives a day late in preparation for their wedding, it's very off-putting. And we're being successful despite of this contingency. But the fact is, Mr. Speaker, that we unfortunately are put into position that if we have to measure the utilization of our airport, it's not going to be a fair number. Because unfortunately, the time of day that 90% plus of our flights are going to come in are going to be between that window of 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it means that we've got to build our capacity up of the airport to be able to handle that. Currently, the airport that we have has reached its maximum point. We cannot cope with any additional flights in that window. In fact, currently, we have flights that are circling because we can't even get in parking space in order for them to wait to be able to get into a gate. Secondly, is to implement urgent investments that will position SLASPA to take advantage of St. Lucia's competitive advantage as the ideal location for a hub for regional travelers and to improve the earning potential of SLASPA. We've already seen that we've had to make all kinds of accommodations at the airport to facilitate in-transit passengers. So as an example, Mr. Speaker, many of the smaller planes coming out of the Grenadines used to go out of Barbados. But Barbados is a longer flight than it is from St. Lucia. But more importantly, the in-transit process for those passengers is very long. When you arrive in Barbados, you're forced to go through immigration and customs, and then to recheck into the flight is the furthest counter to the other side, and then you have to go back through security. So the intention, Mr. Speaker, in building this new airport is to design a facility in which we can create a seamless connection through St. Lucia, specifically to be able to help Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Martinique, and Dominica. Thirdly, it's to expand the infrastructure of St. Lucia and increase the capacity of the country to accommodate growth in tourism. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no prospect of adding any additional flights. We just simply do not have the space. If you go to the airport on any given day and see the number of passengers that are lined up to get into the terminal, and once they're in the terminal, Mr. Speaker, we have people sitting on the ground. There certainly is not enough space to add any food and beverage outlets or any more duty-free opportunities because of the level of congestion. So here we are seeing an opportunity to generate additional revenue, Mr. Speaker. But unfortunately, because of the lack of space, there's no ability for us to take advantage of that opportunity. The HIA comprises of 92,000 square foot terminal building, an 109,000 square foot tower, a 9,000 foot runway, and 6 parking aprons totaling 352,000 square feet. While periodic renovations for the runway and apron have taken place, there has been little changes to the main superstructure and supporting systems since 1993, when the current terminal building was first opened. The main terminal building was constructed at a time when the number of passengers handled annually was 315,000, and aircraft size and regulatory environments were much less demanding. As at the end of 2017, HIA handled 715,955 passengers, with 16,879 aircraft movements. The HIA is currently operating well beyond its limits, with the terminal building in particular straining to accommodate passengers at peak times. The continued increase in passenger arrivals, while crucial to St. Lucia's economic development, has placed tremendous pressure on the facility, which suffers from a myriad of design challenges which limit the facility's ability to meet current and future market demands. The current configuration of the facility results in a host of challenges, including inadequate check-in counters and the absence of automated check-in facilities, inadequate space allocations for the immigration and immigration services, inadequate road infrastructure to facilitate the seamless operations of the ground transportation. The tower and the technical block are archaic and in need of an immediate upgrade. Current facility poses challenges in meeting security requirements, inadequate seating within the departure concourse. Location of the terminal building does not allow for parking of wide-bodied aircraft, Boeing 747 or 77, directly in front of the terminal. Mr. Speaker, let me just take a moment to explain what that means, because it's a very important component as to why we're having to build a new airport terminal. The ICAO standard requires that we have what are called movable and immovable obstacles as it relates to the center of the runway. If we park a 777 or a 747 in front of the existing airport terminal, then it would be considered to be an immovable obstacle because its tail would be too close to halfway mark of the runway. And so therefore it's not permissible. That is why you will see that the larger planes are parked off to the left side of the terminal. And there requires to be this long walk when passengers get off the flight. So that is one major obstacle. The second one, as my colleague from Labrie would know, is that what's called commingling. We're currently having passengers who are getting off flights and passengers who are getting on flights actually crossing each other. And that is an absolute no-no when it comes to security. Furthermore, passengers are actually walking in front of where the baggage carousel is. That's, again, another breach that we have. Now, ICAO has continued to allow us to do it because these were in existence before those ICAO laws came into effect. But the fact is, in building a new facility, we have to cure these breaches if we're going to continue to be able to get a proper rating from the airplanes. We have also seen that many airports now have gone to having gangways in order that they can turn around the flights much quicker. Because the planes are coming from hubs, so whether it's from Atlanta, whether it's from Miami, and given the distance from that hub to where St. Lucia is, they have a very limited time to turn around. So any delays in St. Lucia actually end up costing the airline a significant amount of money, Mr. Speaker, because those planes arrive late back into their hub, and those people would have missed their connections. So it means that the airline has to put them up for the night, and also the inconvenience to the passengers. So these are some of the technical issues that are constraining us actually fixing up the existing building, because many people have said, why don't you all just spend the money and fix up the building? The problem is the location of the building in itself is an obstruction. These and other shortcomings of the facility have compromised the ability of HIA to facilitate increased traffic and improve the quality of guest experiences. It also contravenes several international security protocols, particularly as it relates to both inbound and outbound passengers interacting with each other as they traverse the facility. So this is the commingling that I was talking about, Mr. Speaker. The redevelopment of the HIA will alleviate the many challenges which plague the airport and would ensure the facility can cater for the anticipated growth in tourism industry by accommodating more airlines in the airport space. The expected outputs from the redevelopment includes a new terminal building, control tower, apron, taxiway, airfield and ground lighting system, and a car park and roadway. The redevelopment will also result in the introduction of a modern process and procedures in the operations of the airport. The redevelopment of the HIA will result in an experience which is acceptable to the traveling public and consistent with high level of customer service standards. The government of St. Lucia reintroduced the Airport Development Charge, ADC, of US $35 per departing passengers, effective January 2018. The intention for these funds is to be used by SLASPA to repay its loan for the redevelopment of HIA. The terms and conditions governing the line of credit is as follows. A guarantee of a loan from the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority in the sum of US $100 million, which will be made to the Export Bank, the Exim Bank of Republic of China, Taiwan. The loan repayment shall commence after the grace period of 5 years has expired. Let me explain that, Mr. Speaker. So this loan is a 20-year loan, but it has a 5-year moratorium on the principal amount. So we don't start repaying the principal for 5 years. So all we pay in the initial instance is the interest payments of the $2,195,000. So we pay that on a semi-annual basis. So just under $5 million a year in interest payments for the first 5 years. And then afterwards, we start paying the interest payments at the LIBOR rate plus 1.5%, plus the principal repayments divided over the 15-year period. What this allows us to do, Mr. Speaker, is that during the initial part of the loan, the $35 tax that we're collecting will allow us to accumulate deposits in the bank account. And the intention, which will come to the House at a later date, is to use those monies in the first 5 years in order to fix up the air traffic control tower, in order to resurface the runway, and also looking at building a taxiway. But we'll get to that at a later date. The intention today is to seek approval for the loan of $100 million, which will be used by SLASPA to be able to build the new airport terminal. The designs of the airport terminal will be unveiled early next year. We have used the same company that has been involved from the onset of this project, which is a company called HIA out of Miami. HIA were also the architects that did the Miami International Airport. The fundamental change, Mr. Speaker, that has come has been the location of the airport terminal. This is a very important factor, Mr. Speaker. So when we came in and unfortunately, the airport had not been started on any work on repairing the airport, that when we reviewed it, given the numbers that were coming currently into the airport, it would have made it difficult in our mind, Mr. Speaker, for us to have gone ahead with the original plan. And the original plan, Mr. Speaker, was to have built the new airport terminal, in fact, where the car park is behind the current airport terminal. So there would have been actually 2 phases to the development. There would have been the development of a new airport terminal and then the demolition of the existing airport terminal. And we just felt 2 things. One, that the impact it would have had on existing operations would have been very difficult to have been able to manage, particularly given the fragility of the existing terminal. And we all knew what happened to us last year. And secondly, it means that we would have lost the use of the old terminal. So the decision was to look for a new location for the airport terminal. And that new location, Mr. Speaker, was determined at the bottom of what we know affectionately as the Kakabeth, the old runway. What that gives us an opportunity to do is to actually work 24/7 on the new airport terminal without having any effect on the existing terminal. But more importantly, the new road which we've already begun to build now would actually facilitate easier arrivals and easier departures from traffic perspective, domestic traffic perspective, in and out of the airport. So currently when you leave the airport, in order to be able to go to La Brie or to Choiseul or to Soufrière, one has to go right around the airport and go through the town of Vieux-Fort and all the way down by in front of Ile Pirata to be able to leave. So what we're going to be able to do now is to be able to leave and use the La Ressource Road. So when you depart the airport terminal, you actually would arrive at the La Ressource Road, in which you'll be able to make a left, and you'll be in La Brie and in Choiseul and in Soufrière much faster than you were before. It is also the intention at this new airport terminal to build what we call a stacked airport, meaning that we're going to have departures upstairs and arrivals downstairs. So it's going to actually assist in the design in terms of the use of the airport facility. So, Mr. Speaker, the guarantee is being provided to SLASPA in order that they can guarantee the loan to the Taiwanese Exim Bank. The $35 that we're collecting is a new revenue stream that will be going towards funding the project. So there will be absolutely no impact on the consolidated fund. This is not going to add any additional fiscal pressure on government's current situation, but it will, in fact, increase the debt to GDP. And we had to weigh that off in terms of, do we give a concession in which the concessionaire would have access to a lot of money, and we'll go through the details of what that is, or do we take on the debt to GDP, given the fact that the $35 will more than cover the cost of the airport? In fact, we cannot grow without the airport. And we're currently doing, I think it's just under 400,000 passengers. If we're successful in seeing the addition of 2,000 new hotel rooms, and also if we're successful in being able to complete the deal for a new cruise ship home port in Vieux Fort, those two things have the ability by themselves of increasing arrivals by 300,000. So even if you don't take the 300,000 and you just simply increase it by 100,000, the $35 will be able to pay off the $100 million, in fact, in less time than we've been given. We can actually pay back the loan in just under 7 years if we're able to see an increase of 100,000. And let's remember that we have a moratorium for 5 years. So it means the airport actually would be in operation within 2 years, and that we would have 3 years of operations in order to be able to see the increase in number of arrivals. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to the support of my parliamentarian colleagues. I think this is a milestone project in the history of St. Lucia. The $100 million by itself is one of the largest, if not the largest project that has been undertaken in St. Lucia. But then when you add the extra expenditures of the resurfacing of the runway, the new taxiway, and the new traffic control tower, which is going to be somewhere in the vicinity of 150 to 170 million US dollars, it definitely would have made it the largest amount ever. I just also want to add, Mr. Speaker, that we have, as of 2017, when we started to implement the new ACD, because you remember, when we were in government, Mr. Speaker, we chose to impose the $35 US tax in order to build the airport. Unfortunately, members of the other side, when they got into government, I guess because of a political promise, decided to suspend it. And we lost a tremendous amount of money. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if the former government had not taken off that tax, we would have had in excess of $200 million accumulated into that account, which means that half of the cost of the airport would have been able to pay for. But as we speak of today, Mr. Speaker, since we've reintroduced it, we've collected $25 million, and we have about $5 million that we have invoiced above and beyond that. So this is good news, because this becomes important money in order to be able to make sure that we can meet the payments that we have and that we stay ahead. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a substantial project, not only for the people of St. Lucia, but I am also extremely pleased and happy for the people in the South that can now see a meaningful project like this and the economic impact that this project will have, which I will speak more to in my concluding remarks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.